So, like last week, let's begin National 2 by starting with National 2 East, considering one of our feature clubs this week, Bury St Edmunds, compete in this division. But before we get into our interview with Bury St Edmunds Director of Rugby, Jacob Ford, there seems to be only one place we can start our National 2 East segment this week, and that is at the home of Guernsey Raiders, Butts Lane, where Guernsey snatched a remarkable win over Barnes in round 6. Jack Colborne's late try clinching a 35-31 victory for Jordan Reynolds' side. Two brilliant teams going at it last week, took it right the way down to the wire. But what we wanted to do on the show this week was just show you the winning moment with the sound on, because it sounded like an absolutely brilliant atmosphere at Foots Lane once that winning moment occurred for Guernsey Raiders. So just have a little listen to this. It really was another fabulous advert for National League Rugby. A massive credit to Guernsey and Barnes for putting on such a display in level 4 of the English game. But the win for Guernsey keeps them on the tails of league leaders Tunbridge Julians, as they made it 6 wins from 6 with a 39-31 victory at Havant. The perfect record continues for TJs, and they achieved that in front of an 800-strong crowd at Hooks Lane, so another healthy attendance for Havant, but the outcome was another win for Tunbridge Julian. So what it means for the league table is that TJs do top the pile, as we've just mentioned. Guernsey are in second, with Dorking ticking along nicely in third position. Down at the bottom, Colchester boss Craig Burrow said after round 6's 10-7 defeat to Henley that it was the small margins, the little errors that were costing his side at the moment, and they needed to go back to the drawing board. That was a post that Colchester put out on their own Twitter account. So it sounds like things are not going the way of Colchester at the moment, as they continue to search for their first win of the season since promotion to National 2 East. And the same can be said for Sevenoaks and Old Oxford Harlequins, who go into the penultimate weekend of October, still waiting for that first success, as are Worthing, who fought back well in round 6 but fell to a 31-27 loss at home to Old Albanian. So the bottom 4 sides still winless heading into round 7. And speaking of Worthing, they travel to Bury St Edmunds this weekend, with Bury being our featured club, or one of our featured clubs, on the National League Rugby preview show this week. Just in terms of Bury, then, they're currently 8th in the table, 3 wins and 3 defeats to their name, but they're slowly starting to find momentum. All 3 of the wins that we've just mentioned have come in the last 4 games, but it has been, or it was, a real summer of change for Bury St Edmunds, with around 23-24 new players arriving in Suffolk. And also, they struck up a new partnership with Championship outfit Doncaster Knights, and that has come from the relationship Director of Rugby Jacob Ford has with his brother Joe Ford, who is head coach of Doncaster. So we wanted to hear from Jacob about how things have settled in the first 6 weeks of the season for Bury St Edmunds. But before we go into our interview with Jacob, here is a short clip from the club themselves, just giving you a little bit of a taster about what Bury St Edmunds is all about.
We're under no illusions of where we are as a team. We understand, we've got a lot of development to go and a lot of areas to improve on. A new group of players coming together and, trying to excel in bringing that process along. That's going to take time, but Yeah, it's definitely a unique challenge, one that I've never had before. And compared to my previous seasons at Bury, it's it's something that presented new challenges and new things for me to figure out, what we need to do and what direction we need to go in. So I think it was natural in terms of the changeover of players. Those players committed to the club for 3 years. We wish them all the best, and they've done a fantastic service to Bury. And we needed to figure out what direction we wanted to go in, what type of player we wanted to bring in. And I think every director of rugby in the National Leagues will agree how difficult it is to recruit at this level. It just is, the semi-professional element of it, everything that comes to moving a player to the area. It is difficult, but it's a great challenge at the same time. And we're still having ups and downs in terms of player movement and stuff, which is normal. Hopefully the squad will be settled in the next month or so. But, these are challenges that I didn't foresee, but ultimately the ones that you've got to adapt and overcome, not just myself, but as a management team, as a playing group, as a whole club, to be honest. So, we're definitely finding out what our strengths are and also what our weaknesses are as a new playing group. That's normal. So I think we'll be in a different place in, January. I truly do believe that, for better or the worse. I haven't quite figured it out yet. But no, it's all good. I feel like the potential of this group's massive, which is brilliant.
You talked before, Jacob, about kind of the difficulties around recruiting players, especially when such a core group of players do move on. And so I guess when you have kind of the relationship and the partnership the club have struck up with Doncaster Knights, that is a real plus point for you. Obviously, the link between yourself and your brother Joe being head coach is an obvious one, but just tell us a little bit about how that's developed and how's that working, because I guess it just adds that little bit more extra when it comes to kind of bringing in players and players settling down at the club.
Yeah, I mean the Donny lads have been brilliant. Even when Doncaster's not around the corner, it's a couple of hours away. But yeah, I like them because those lads come down and they're very humble. They're keen to get better. They fit into the group, massively so in terms of the cultural side of it and the off-field stuff. So the travel, that they come and they stay down and stuff like that just shows the commitment to the rest of the playing group, that they're here because they want to see Bury succeed. They want to give the best for the club. That's incredibly important that they show that sacrifice, which is great. But also on the field, they're 100% committed. When you get a 100% committed player, them are the ones you want to work with. It's been good in terms of adding a different dynamic and player to the group that we've probably not had before. Which is great, because then we can start to develop our game and how we want to do things a little bit differently. But ultimately, they're a high standard of player. They're hungry, they want to get better, and I think the way we've tried to do recruitment is trying to get a player in that wants to get better every session, every week, and ultimately drive standards. And they might not be the finished article, and they might not have per se the experience as a lot of players in the national leagues, but they have a lot of grit, they have a lot of fight, and they've got a lot of potential, which those are the types of players you want to work with. It's very difficult to recruit the experienced types of players because you've got to move them and the families and stuff to the area, which is difficult. So that's kind of how we've gone with it with our recruitment stuff, and it is exciting on one hand, but we might be exposed in others. But that's where we are as a team, and you've got to accept that, haven't you, to move forward and ultimately reach where you want to get to. I think where we want to go as a club is we want to maximise potential, and we want to exceed in not just the rugby side of it, but everything. Every area, every section of the club, on field and off field. And make sure that we're the best we can possibly be, whatever that is. And we've got a group of players now, and my job and the coach's job is to maximise that potential. Make sure at the end of the year that we've done that. That's incredibly important that we get that right. So, and wherever that takes us, that's where it takes us. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I was actually thinking about it at the weekend at Sevenoaks. Is a lot of the lads felt a lot of pressure, and I was like, "There's no pressure here." Like, you know what I mean? I want you guys going out there because you enjoy playing rugby. That's first and foremost why you do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, there might be a benefit, with jobs, accommodation, and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, remember why you're here. When you enjoy it, when you relax, that's when you're going to play your best. And ultimately, that's what I want from the playing group. And I'm probably guilty of it sometimes, of being a little bit too professional or putting the pressure on. And actually, you got to understand that there's a lot of sacrifices at this level. Semi-professional. They've come from a long day at work. They've got families to go home to after training. A lot of lads travel to and from as well. Like, there's a lot of sacrifices made for them to play rugby, and it doesn't make sense for me that if they go and play the rugby at the weekend and they're not enjoying it, it doesn't add up. It don't win for anyone. So ultimately, that's what we want to create, and that's where we want to go as an environment. Not just across the first team, but across the whole club. He's like, let's get that bit right, and then hopefully the rest can follow after it. But that's the most important bit.
Obviously, the next step in that progress, Jacob, is Worthing at home. And then, I mean, like Sevenoaks last weekend when he played them, they're still searching for the first victory of the season. And I know they've kind of put in some much better performances against Barnes and at the weekend against Old Albanian. So does that make them even more of a dangerous opponent in a way when they come to your place on Saturday?
Genuinely, this year, I look at the table and like everyone's dangerous. Like, I know it's easy to say that, but I look at a team and I always see what they're really good at. You know what I mean? And that's always a threat. You look at Worthing, they've got some good young players in there. Jack Forrest, he's really good on the ball, and Frank Taggart, you saw him playing last week as a coach. Like the really good players who can cause you a lot of problems. And it's going to be a very difficult test. It's one where we've got to be at our best. But the more I've been in this environment, this space of National League Rugby the last 4 or 5 years, is that I've actually figured out, well, for me anyway, that the more you can focus on yourself and the more that you can make it about Bury St Edmunds and what we're good at, I think the better. And the reason I said that is because you don't have a lot of time. Like you're not in a professional environment where you've got 4 days a week and you can preview the opposition and stuff. I'm not saying we don't do that, but what I'm saying is I find it much more powerful to the group to say, yes, we're playing Worthing at the weekend at home. Yes, it's going to be a great occasion. We're back at home. We've played so many away games so far, but ultimately, this is what we're about. This is what we want to show. This is what our strengths are as a group, and if we get that right, our chances of success are higher. I think if you worry too much about the opposition and where you play, stuff like that, you can fall into a trap of forgetting what you're about and bringing the best out of you as a squad and a group, and ultimately individually as a player as well. So I know it's funny looking at it that way, but I do think that message resonates within the group, and it's something that everyone can buy into as well.
So a big thank you to Jacob for his time, and a massive thank you as well to Bury St Edmunds for all the help around the National League Rugby preview show this week. As Jacob touched on, he has been faced with challenges in the early parts of this season, but it sounds like Bury are starting to find their feet, and they'll be targeting a 4th win of the season this weekend when Worthing come to town. And as Bury outlined in their promotional video before our interview with Jacob, they are a proper community club with a strong senior men's programme, a thriving women's and mini and juniors section as well. And away from the rugby, they are a real hub of the community. So if you haven't already, why not pay Bury St Edmunds a visit during the course of this season? But why not start by visiting them this weekend when their first 15 take on Worthing in National 2 East? So let's take a look at the rest of the fixtures in this division for round 7 then. And we start with Barnes against Havant. Such heartbreak for Barnes last week at Guernsey. So they'll be eager for a reaction against Havant, who certainly made life uncomfortable for league leaders Tunbridge Julians last week. Worthing, as we know, they go to Bury St Edmunds searching for their first win of the season, and like Worthing, Sevenoaks will be doing the same when they visit Henley. 2 narrow defeats against Bury and Old Albanian in the last 2 weeks for Sevenoaks. So can they be on the right side of the result on Saturday? Old Albanian versus Guernsey should be a decent contest at Woolham's. 3 wins on the bounce for OAs, while Guernsey take on another side in the top half of the table. Another fixture which really stands out is Oxford Harlequins against Colchester, a meeting of the 2 newly promoted sides, but which one can get off the mark in round 7? And the big fixtures keep on coming, and it's another derby for Canterbury. They beat Westcombe Park 39-22 last time out, and they travel to Kent rivals and table toppers Tunbridge Julians this week, who are looking to go 7 wins from 7. And lastly, Westcombe Park, who we've just mentioned there, they host Dorking, who have flown out of the blocks in the last couple of weeks or so and are now gunning for their 6th win in a row.